JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code PODCAST. That's JamesAllen.com, code PODCAST.
Diets and workouts, you've done the work, so why can't you get to your goal weight? That's because up to 70% of your weight is predetermined by your genetics. So while you've been told that it's all about your willpower, you're actually fighting your biology. Don't do it alone. Found's Doctor Design program uses medication as part of a treatment plan that targets your body's unique biological needs, so that your body works with you and not against you. Take the quiz at joinfound.com to see if Found's weight loss program is right for you.
This is Kansas State's Felix Enyedike Uzama, and you're listening to the Power Cat Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribing to this show on your favorite podcast provider.
I don't know what happened. Don't care what happened. Can I at least enjoy this, Fitz? You don't have to tell me anything right now. So keep your mouth shut, Fitz. Okay. So,
Oh, that's Chris Kleiman post-game at Baylor. Boy, was he in a good mood, but he did not want to know that Texas was beating TCU. And I was trying to tell him they're not beating TCU. And he did walk up to me right after the press conference to say, "What's the score?"
And you almost jinxed it.
I know. And it was 17-3 at the moment, and then became 17-10. But the Frogs went on and won, meaning Kansas State is in complete control of its destiny once again. Win at West Virginia, beat Kansas in Manhattan, and you will play for the Big 12 championship. Welcome to the Power Cat Questions Podcast, our weekly endeavor into whatever you want to ask us. And when I say you, I mean the VIPs at GoPowerCat.com. And then everyone gets to listen to the answers here on this podcast. I am Go Power Cat publisher Tim Fitzgerald, joined by Zach Carlson and Cole Carmody today. Ryan Gilbert is doing his bartending thing, and I'm sure he's doing it at a very elite level because that's what we demand here. Man, the whole team was in such a good mood after that win on Saturday in Waco, and they should be because they played outstanding football, complimentary football, as Chris Kleiman likes to say. The offense helped the defense helped the offense, the special teams pitched in, and they kicked the Bears' butts all over the field, 31-3, in a very impressive performance. Will Howard, again, comes off the bench and leads K-State to victory. Let's do a little house cleaning before we get to the questions here. But first, I need you to know we're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Make sure you stop into the Fridge whenever you are in Manhattan. It is the biggest and best liquor store in all of the Midwest. I mean, everywhere. Like Upper Minnesota. No better ones. Lower Iowa, no better ones. Any place. I haven't been to them all.
Did you know that Ben Sinnott is from the same hometown as Chris Kleiman?
Yeah, I did. Okay. Chris mentions it quite often.
Did you know that Ben Sinnott is a hockey player?
I did not know that until today, and it makes me scared of hockey players.
Did you know that Deuce Vaughn was under-recruited in high school?
I did know that because he's actually, folks, he's 3'2". I mean, that what you're seeing on he doesn't really, he's not that tall at all. Anything else, guys, before I keep going?
That'll do it for the questions podcast.
Do you think Ben Sinnott is the best hockey player on the team?
That was an interesting question you posed. I don't know who else would have played hockey.
Will Howard?
Oh, that's good.
Maybe.
That's valid. We just don't have many of those upper Midwest ice is slippery kind of guys. I was kind of surprised an Iowa kid had played hockey, to be honest. Isn't that for the junior Canadians and the Dakotas and the Minnesotas and the
Andrew Langang from North Dakota?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that is.
He probably did.
Does he even speak English or does he speak Canadian? I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Oh,
did you the Power Cat podcast? Eh? That sounded. I don't know what that was.
Tried. It was very bad attempt at Canadian. I think.
Next house cleaning item, I can't remember.
Why do you keep saying house cleaning? It's housekeeping.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Housekeeping item. What was the other one? You guys distracted me with your hockey humor. Bunch of pucks. Okay, let's move on to your questions from Wabash Station. I'll think of what I was going to say before I was distracted. They're in here just distracting the massive talent that I am.
Do you want me to read the questions now?
Yeah, you better just go ahead and read this.
The first question comes from Third Gen Wildcat. Chris Kleiman seems good at keeping the guys locked in, but with KU in the title game on the horizon and West Virginia being less than average, is this a trap game?
No, it's not. And you know why? I asked Chris Kleiman about this. West Virginia just won. If West Virginia had stunk on Saturday, and they really weren't that great, Oklahoma stunk, but if they had stunk on Saturday, gotten blown out by the Sooners, I might buy into that. They just won. K-State, these guys are kind of laser focused right now. And I'll be really honest, and some of you don't want to hear this. I'm a lot more worried about next week against Kansas with Jalen Daniels at quarterback than I am with West Virginia with two guys that don't scare me at quarterback, although Neil Brown said it might be three guys, just to kind of spin it even further, which I thought was kind of funny. Do you have a quarterback controversy? No, might use three guys on Saturday. Okay, good answer, Neil. They'll work well in the unemployment line.
I don't think honestly this West Virginia game is that scary. Again, I don't think the players they're so locked in right now. They could be playing South Dakota, and I wouldn't say it's a trap game. Or they could be like the SEC schools and play these no-name, lower division FBS schools where they just roll by. You're supposed to roll by 40. I'm not worried about K-State. If K-State loses this game against West Virginia, it's because they went in there. West Virginia just completely outclassed them, outcoached them. It's not going to be because the team wasn't taking them seriously. But to be completely honest with you, West Virginia is a freaking mess right now. They just fired their AD. They've had two guys enter the transfer portal. I understand that it's senior day and they're playing for their coach's job, but if K-State gets up on them early, they're going to quit. This just reminds me of the Texas game last year. Only the difference was that was on a Friday at 11 o'clock, the last game of the season. Say what you want to say, but K-State really didn't have much to play for in that game. They have a lot to play for in this game. This is going to be a blowout, I think. I'm ready to say that. I had gone back and forth and had maybe thought that this was going to be a closer game than people think, but I think firing the athletic director, basically assuring that Neil Brown is going to get fired at the end of the season, to me, there's a lot that's going on in that football office at West Virginia right now, and none of it is focusing on Kansas State.
I've thought of my keeping of the house items. They were the injuries that Chris Kleiman discussed. Adrian Martinez is out for this game. We believe he won't be back until the bowl game, but the nature of this injury, as I mentioned in my walk and talk, if it is what I suspect it is, he could play. He would just put his leg into peril for full breakage instead of just a fracture. But I think they'll just hold him out until the bowl game. Unless Will Howard gets hurt, and then maybe, Adrian says, I'm going. You're not stopping me. If I break my leg, I break my leg. So that'll be interesting. And I do wonder if there's something you could brace to guarantee that there's not more of that side flex. Because I did come back home. I did watch most of the replay, and I saw how it happened. And I see exactly what happened. I mean, he did fracture one of those lower bones, I think. Kobe Savage is done for the season. It is an ACL, we've been told. So that is complete, and that is sad because Kobe was playing at an elite level, just not as a player, though, but as a leader.
We'll talk about that later.
So those two things are set in stone now. But honestly, between us, don't tell any KU people this. Don't keep it a secret here. I think Chris Kleiman was just playing coy. He just wants to make sure KU and maybe TCU, if they make it to the Big 12 championship, don't solely know it's Will Howard. That's what I think, but keep it down low.
And back to the question. I don't think it's a trap game because West Virginia peaked last week.
Yes.
Last week against Oklahoma, beating, even though they're Oklahoma this season, they're still Oklahoma. And with West Virginia winning last week, I think that was, for lack of a better term, that was their Super Bowl. And I think that the season's done for them. I think the writing's on the wall. AD's fired. You can't fire a coach after a win like that. I think that, I think Neil Brown might be looking for a job on Monday.
Okay,
which is crazy that Chris Kleiman is able to basically kill all of these coaches over his career.
I don't think he'll get fired after Saturday. This is what I was hearing before the Oklahoma game, was that he is going to be dismissed, but they're not going to do it till season's end to not make a big distraction about it. And they fired the AD because he gave him a big extension after one season that they now have to buy out. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do a daily delivery on this. When are ADs going to start working for their athletic departments instead of for the agents of these coaches? That was a grossly irresponsible move, just like the Jimbo Fisher contract is grossly irresponsible. Like a lot of these places, handing coaches massive buyouts for failing. No, tell them don't fail. You don't like the contract? Okay, well, have fun. I mean, we're not hiring you then. Grow some balls, ADs. Come on.
I agree. Yeah, so we're all in agreement this is not a trap game then?
Yes.
No trap.
Okay.
No trap. But they do a lot of hunting in West Virginia.
They do a lot of
trapping.
Old trapper.
Old trapper. I might step in a trap because they might think I'm a bear. Let's move on.
Next question comes from Bone Cat TB.
What? Bone Cat TB?
Yep.
Tuberculosis?
I was going to say Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be better. Yeah.
Do you think the quote unquote better offensive play calling when Will Howard is at quarterback for K-State this season is due to the fact that Colin Klein has coached Will for 2+ years as opposed to Adrian Martinez only entering the program this season?
No, because Will's not even the same quarterback he was, and he talked about that at Tuesday. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was good.
What did he say? It was Will's got a great sense of humor.
He's a stiff now.
Yeah. Like he came into the season unable to throw and was a running quarterback, and now he's a stiff because nobody thinks he can run, and he can run. But I didn't get this question asked to him like, "Are you really talking about running when you're now the clear number one quarterback?" And I'll be blunt here. The space between him and the next guy, whoever that is, whether it's Rubley or Lewis, is rather huge. Mm-hmm. So please don't run unless you need to. Please protect yourself.
He did say he wanted to get out there and run a little bit more, which I found fascinating.
I know. And he's capable of it. He made a really big play on a zone read where he, changed a 2nd and long to a 3rd and 1 that they picked up.
I don't know if, first of all, I don't know if it's better offensive play calling or if it's just more creative based off of what the quarterbacks are willing to do. Not capable of doing, because Adrian is capable of doing everything that Will is doing, but I don't know if he's willing to do everything that Will is doing. Like, you look at that play, that the first touchdown pass to Ben Sinnott, he had to look off a safety, fire a ball into an area where only Ben Sinnott could catch it. In between 3 guys, he had to look off the safety, wait for Sinnott to clear the second level of the linebacker, and put the ball right on his numbers as the other safety is coming over the top. Malik Knowles was wide open in the flat. Adrian Martinez is not going to take that risk because he wants to protect the football, but Will Howard is willing to live with potentially a turnover on the upside of I'm going to score a touchdown. Now, when you have quarterbacks like that, eventually they will come back to the margins. There's going to be a time when Will Howard is going to make a throw that people are going to say, well, he tried to force it in there and it got picked off. That didn't happen with Adrian. It won't happen with Adrian if he plays at all in the rest of the season. I'm confident in that. I don't know if the play calling is that much different, but the fact that Will Howard is willing to take more risks, I think, lets Colin Klein know that they are willing to take more shots down the field and more chances because he knows that Will try and throw the ball in there, as opposed to Adrian saying, okay, I've known how Adrian wants to play. He's not going to take a lot of chances, so we're going to try and move the ball maybe a little bit more methodically. We're going to change the game plan a little bit to be what best suits the quarterback we have in. I don't know if it's better play calling. I think it's different play calling.
I want to point this out. We keep talking about the play calling being different. Something we haven't talked about is the way they're defending the offense changes, and then maybe the play calling goes with it. But I do think Will stresses a defense more because you already have the running threat with Deuce Vaughn, and I know him and Adrian together are really dynamic and hard to stop. But you bring those safeties up, it doesn't really matter if they read who has the ball, what you're doing. And Will's backed everyone up, and on Saturday he took this underneath stuff. He kept throwing behind the blitz. He just dissected that Baylor defense. Again, I come back to this. The amount that Will Howard has advanced as a quarterback in this offseason into this year is stunning. I've never seen a young player flip a switch like he has, and it's just been very impressive. And you can try to stop him. They took away some of the receivers, so he started throwing to Ben Sinnott. And now that will change how everyone has to defend K-State. And I don't know how you stop an offense that has a Ben Sinnott and a Deuce Vaughn able to catch the ball. And they move them around into different spots. It's going to just really be tough for defenses from here on out, including West Virginia, Kansas, and hopefully one more time with TCU and maybe LSU in a bowl game again. It really puts a lot of stress on the defense.
Throw into the fact then you have 3 receivers who we've talked about, they're veteran guys, but Malik Knowles can take the top off of the defense.
Yep.
Phillip Brooks can be a deep threat. You start trying to just focus your attention on Ben Sinnott and Deuce Vaughn, and then you got Cade Warner who just somehow makes plays. Those are all options that I think K-State fans can feel comfortable if the ball is thrown their way. They will be able to make a play.
And layer in Knowles and Brooks in the running game.
Yeah.
I mean, they both can take that jet sweep and turn it into something special.
Isn't it amazing how much we just have completely changed the narrative on this offense?
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. This offense is really amazing right now, and I hope it can continue because I know there's some people, the second Will throws an interception. Oh, there he is. That's the Will we know. That's just how fans are. But I hope this just keeps clicking along because it's an incredible story.
He is so much different this year. The next question comes from Fervent Purple. Did I say that right, Zach?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. I know we've had a question from him before. I just don't know if I've had to say his name. How does losing Kobe Savage change this defense going forward?
Well, it's less cool sounding. You got a safety named Savage.
Much less savage.
I know. They'll move some guys around. It hurts in depth. Really, the thing I'm most worried about, and Derek Cheatham brought it up today, was
Drake.
Who's Derek? Is that like a rapper?
That is Drake.
That is also Drake.
Drake Cheatham, I don't even know where Derek came from. Drake Cheatham mentioned it today that he's a great communicator, and it's something he's going to have to focus on, communicating everything. I'm just so impressed with what these coaches have done with the back-end recruiting, whether it's the transfer portal or in the case of Savage, the junior college recruiting. They went out and found some dudes, and just keep doing that. I'm fine with that. Just keep doing it. But, yeah, that's just a sad story, blowing out his knee, getting that far. K-State's now on a big stage where they have a possibility of being on a really big stage for a few games, and he won't be out there. It's unfortunate. Hopefully they'll get that knee surgery going soon so he can get back for the start of next season.
You have no idea as far as, return time, recovery time. But I think the fact that he was able to, pretty much walk off the field makes me think that there's not more than just what was initially thought.
It's just the ACL.
Because like with Khalid Duke, we don't know for sure, but that was obviously a pretty bad tear if it took him that long to come back. And usually when you have guys that are more skill position type guys who blow out their knee, it's a little bit more shorter of a recovery time. They're more compact. So you hope for the best with Kobe. But as far as the defense goes, I think they're just going to rotate more guys in and out. They're going to miss him. There's no doubt about it. I think they'll miss his communication more than they'll miss anything else. Not saying that he wasn't a great player, because I know Kobe is a great player, but they'll be able to make up for it. Other guys are going to have to step up. That's the bottom line.
We've heard more snaps.
Yeah. We've heard all this praise from TJ Smith last season. He struggled a little bit, was hurt. It's time for him to step up. It's next man up.
He's the one for me that needs to step up.
It's next man up.
He hasn't been good this year. He just hasn't.
No.
It's time. TJ, you've got it all. Just go do it now.
If you want to roll on this season, on this team next year, if you want to be one of the starting safeties, now is your time to earn it. And if it's not TJ Smith, I look at a guy like VJ Payne, a guy who's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, true freshman. He's going to have to come in and he's going to play some snaps. Now, he can do it. I think out of all if there was any position where I think K-State could sustain an injury to a starter minus quarterback, it would be the secondary, especially the safeties, because you do have some experience in Sincere Mason, who we haven't talked about. Then you have Drake Cheatham, and again, like we talked about, TJ Smith. Those are 3 guys right there who've played a lot of football. You throw in VJ Payne, who's played a lot of snaps this year. They're going to be fine. We didn't even mention Josh Hayes. They're going to figure it out. Look for VJ Payne, look for Jacob Parrish to play a lot more just with all the rotations that they have. But again, I think that if there's any position group that can sustain a loss like this, it is the secondary. Part of that is because the defensive coordinator is also the safeties coach. So
yes.
that's part of it.
Onward we go, Mr. Cole.
Thank you. Are you surprised I'm not coughing during this podcast?
No, I felt badly for you, but not enough to feel badly and not make fun of you.
Okay, good. The next question comes from KSU Fan 13. What area is your biggest concern for this football team as it moves forward trying to win the Big 12 championship? It seems like we've seen both sides of the football dominate at times, especially against the Baylor Bears.
We're seeing the injuries pile up. I mean, what if they go to West Virginia and lose another safety? What if Will Howard gets hurt? I mean, the injuries just... They've been more insulated in some ways than other teams in the Big 12 because they have a really outstanding backup quarterback. And we've seen teams just fall off the edge of the earth without their starting quarterback. Oklahoma State. And to a lesser degree, Kansas. I mean, these teams need to have their starting quarterback to function. K-State hasn't been that way. So now they're kind of down to the one guy, which is Will Howard, which I think we all agree after what we saw Saturday. I had to see it a second time, to be real honest. And, that it was so extreme against Oklahoma State, it felt fluky. It was so good in the first half against TCU and then went away. I needed to see it again. I've seen it again. It's real. So, just got to stay away from injuries. But this team is in a really good position. These are two really winnable games in terms of the context of how competitive the Big 12 is. Going to West Virginia, if you had to go on the road to anyone in the conference, come on, that's probably it this year. Even though they've been better at home, I don't want to go to Ames. We've been through that.
Kansas?
That was a war in Kansas. Particularly if they have Jalen Daniels, I don't want to play him at Lawrence. That's just honestly. And having KU come into Manhattan is advantageous. So this is a great way to finish the season as long as they keep their eyes on the prize. They can only trip over themselves. But, yeah, injuries are the thing that jumps out at me.
No pun intended, but to get to the mountaintop, you have to beat the Mountaineers. And
you intended that pun fully.
Mm-hmm. You did.
Fully.
So you intended the pun and then lied about it, Cole.
This is the game. If K-State takes care of business,
Virginia.
Thank you, thank you, K-State mask. I just feel like, again, the injuries are the biggest concern, like you said. But I feel like, to me, the other concern would be once you get past this, then you kind of relax a little bit because you're like, all right, we got this. There's only one game left until we get to the Big 12 championship. Now, I don't think that's going to happen because they do play KU, but again, I mean, there is a little bit of worry, if you're a K-State fan, to say, okay, they know they have one more game on the road, then they take a deep breath because they get to come back home and play KU. Now, maybe it's the exact opposite. Maybe it's they win this game, and then they know that they get to come back home, and they're more fired up. I tend to lean more towards that. But if you want to completely nitpick and look at an area of concern, potentially that's it. The other area I would look at, once again, would be the defensive line. I know we haven't talked about the D-line, but they didn't get – I think they have one sack against Baylor. They've just got to find ways to get to the quarterback, and somebody else has to step up besides Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He gets double and triple teamed every single game. Is that putting Khalid Duke down as an edge rusher? Is that Nate Matlack maybe finally starting to do something? Brendan Ma getting to the quarterback? You've got to find ways to get to the quarterback. But again, those are all very nitpicky concerns, and it's pretty far down on my list. But if they take care of business, the opportunity for something special is just right there.
I agree.
For me, I think it's KU. That's my biggest concern. I think K-State wins at West Virginia. I'm not concerned about this weekend, but, let's say Texas beats KU. So Texas is still in play. You have to beat KU. KU's been good this year. I mean, they have been much better than what they've been in the past. And while I appreciate Chris Kleiman for always having K-State ready against KU, they have not had any sort of doubt playing KU in the 3 seasons that Chris Kleiman has been the coach. But KU's a different team this year, and there's a lot more on the line. And maybe that's a good thing for K-State. But on the other hand, KU finally has a team that I think can beat K-State. I don't think this is the year that happens, but I really don't want that final game of the year to be a must-win for K-State to get into the Big 12 championship.
Oh, so you're rooting for KU to beat Texas.
Brock Chalk.
Oh, man. All right, cut that. Fitz, cut that.
Whoa.
Bleep it out.
Wow, man. Violence against purple.
Last question of the first half.
Orange.
Last question of the first half comes from KSU number 1. Do you prefer playing at 1 p.m. on ESPN Plus for this game?
I
Yes.
prefer 1 p.m. Look, the ESPN Plus thing's all because of West Virginia. And it's not their record, it's their lack of fan engagement. They're just so done with Neil Brown. There's no one at their games. They're not watching the games. They've moved on to other things you do in West Virginia. I don't know what that is.
It's basketball season.
Basketball season, they're going to be bad too. I don't know. Maybe it's making moonshine, which I endorse. I'm all for it. Folks, if you go to the game this weekend and someone offers you moonshine at a tailgate, be careful. Be careful. You may not remember the game. It is what it is. I was a little bit disappointed. Honestly, selfishly, Zach and I were just focused on kickoff time. We've got a 6 a.m. return flight because that was by far the cheapest. We were like, if it's a night game, we are literally pulling an all-nighter because we didn't get to our hotel room till 2:15, 2:30 on.
Well, yeah, but we could have been there earlier.
A little bit.
If we weren't hungry.
Yeah.
Where did you guys go?
We went to the world's
longest line.
There wasn't a long line.
There was the longest wait.
Yeah.
From where?
For a Whataburger.
What a crappy service. Yeah, it wasn't good. But Zach was happy.
That's all that matters around here.
I'm over the whole, we're on ESPN Plus. What a slight to us. K-State fans watch games. ESPN knows this.
Yeah. Yeah, folks, you're doing it. Your loyalty does it.
You are using your ESPN Plus subscription the most. You get the most value for having K-State play on ESPN Plus.
I am a subscriber now to the Sports Business Journal, which, by the way, is outrageously expensive. But in these times of realignment and everything, and TV, all that stuff going on, they're really helpful because they do a lot of great reporting. They had a story about ESPN Plus being the lone hyper-profitable portion of ESPN right now, that they're doing so well with Plus that they're moving more and more stuff there because they're selling subscriptions like crazy. Because as the troubles they've had in the past with ESPN Plus have really been cleaned up. I remember when they first were doing ESPN Plus and there was a lot of lagging and slow. I'm not seeing that. And if you're seeing it, honestly, it's probably on your end. Mm-hmm. It's probably trying to watch something live on your end. Your hookup is the issue, not ESPN Plus itself. I mean, it's one thing to have them. You click on a show that's pre-recorded and it downloads to you and you watch it, and it can be a little bit behind and you don't know it. But when it's live, you want it live, and it gets choked off if you've got a slow connection. So we've got good announcers. We've got a former K-Stater, Barrett Brooks, doing this game as color commentator, former K-State lineman. Mark Neely's doing play-by-play. This is as good a crew as you're going to get with ESPN Plus. So I know it's not ideal. I know if you don't have ESPN Plus, it sucks. But really, if you don't have it, folks, you got to have it. I mean,
you should have it. There's been 2 games already.
There's been games.
They were home games, granted.
There's also basketball games, but if you want to watch women's basketball or volleyball or baseball, all that's on there. I mean, it's not just a few games. If you're a K-State fan, you'll find other things to watch. And Chris Kleiman show's on there.
And I'll say this, too. It is a 1 o'clock game on ESPN. It is what a dramatic pause. Yeah. It is a 1 o'clock game on ESPN Plus. The next game is against KU is a 7 o'clock game on Fox. If you're complaining that K-State's at 1 o'clock on ESPN Plus, then just wait because you will be in heaven when K-State plays KU at 7 o'clock in prime time on national television on a cable station. So
is it possible if KU beats Texas this weekend and K-State beats West Virginia, Big Noon comes here?
I thought that they only go to the noon game.
No, because it's Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Those bastards. Did the mic pick that up?
Yes.
I think it did.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it in. We'll just make everyone turn it way up. I'm sorry I got everyone excited about that. I didn't look at the schedule before. I truly apologize.
But also, Big Noon only does the noon game, right? That's what Big Noon is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm just so dumb. I'm so dumb. That's it for the first half. We'll be back. I'm going to go to the fridge real quick.
This is Kansas State's Cooper Beebe. The leaders in K-State sports coverage will be right back with more of the Power Cat podcast.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order them up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
This is Kansas State's Daniel Green, and welcome back to the PowerCat Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions Podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor, Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody. That was the OU guy announcing you. Are right here in the GPC studios. I hope you had a delightful weekend watching your cats mop up the floor with those bears. It was incredible to watch in person, even though our angle was awful and I had a giant window frame in front of me. And the whole game was on the other end. I felt like the whole game was on the far end of the field. It was. K-State wins that one 31-3. Off to Morgantown, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern in Morgantown on Saturday on ESPN Plus, as we just discussed before the break. And then they come home to play Kansas the last Saturday of the regular season, 7 p.m. on Fox. But onward we go with your questions from Wabash Station. And remember, do go to the Fridge whenever you're in town, including next Saturday. You're going to come to town early. It's going to be, if the forecast holds up, a really nice late November day. If the forecast holds up, which it never does. But you're going to want to tailgate. Swing on by there. Pick up some club specials. You know, some nice, one of our sponsors there, maybe some Cape Cods, little orange juice and vodka, you know, whatever you want to do. It's a 7 p.m. kick. You can have breakfast, you can have a lunch, you can have a delightful turkey dinner there at your tailgate. Please, no cooking of the turkey in the parking lot, though. Please, no flash fires, no hot oil cooking on the premises. You can go to Cole and Gills' apartment to do that inside. Here's your questions from Wabash Station from Cole Carmody.
First question comes from King Jim.
King Jim.
And before I read this question, I just want to say congratulations to Purdue and King Jim, because they're 6-4 and they have to play Northwestern and Indiana the rest of the season.
So they're going to go to a decent bowl.
They will be 8-4 after a pretty rough start.
King Jim will be double happy.
So congratulations. First question from King Jim 77. What are the odds Chris Klieman gets offered another Power 5 coaching position, and what are the odds he takes it?
100 and 110%. He's already going to Nebraska.
Offered very little because he's not going to pursue. So they won't offer him. His agent's probably getting calls. again, I've said this before, the only job I'm worried about is Iowa. That's it. And if Kirk Ferentz is still in at Iowa, it's all okay. He's not going to Nebraska. He's not going to Wisconsin. KU has a bigger worry than Kansas State. Lance Leipold in Wisconsin seems like the most obvious move ever. And they will have the money to throw at him because of the disparity in TV contracts between what the Big Ten will have and what the Big 12 will have. That's just the truth. And honestly, I don't know if KU wants to spend the kind of money on a football coach that they would need to spend to keep him, because it's going to dig into basketball. And, you got to pick your fights. I don't think either one's leaving. And I think Chris Kleiman is here. And Iowa can come after him if they do remove Kirk Ferentz, but they're going to have to hire Gene Taylor with him. So if Iowa fires their AD, and then it'll catch my attention. But I don't think that's going to happen either. So I'm not worried about it. I saw something disturbing. Google, I used to think was really reliable, and I just don't think what they're feeding you in the search anymore. So much of it feels like spam, like just ridiculous, clickbait stuff. But they actually did feed me a headline from On3 about Chris Kleiman going to Nebraska. And I'm like, are they actually reporting this? And no, it was the message board post. Google fed a message board post across their news feed. And that's just, you can look at it from On3. Well, that's traffic. But boy, that cuts into your reputation when that's attached to your name. That was just an outlandish message board post, apparently on a free board because I read it. But boy, I don't think Chris Kleiman's going anywhere. But there was a Nebraska fan at the game with a sign that said, "We're here to interview your coach."
That was so funny.
That was great.
I think at the very least, Kleiman's going to get a raise. So I think that I think that means that he gets offered. I think that there's a chance he gets offered somewhere. Not that he's necessarily interested or that he's going to take it, but his agent is going to be like, "Hey, these guys called me. Here's a number, Gene. Do you want to give this to us, Gene?" And Gene will be like, "Yeah, we don't want to lose our coach like that."
If K-State makes the Big 12 championship, he should get a raise.
Absolutely.
And you know who else should get a raise? Joe Kleinerman.
Me. Oh, Joe Kleinerman. God, I'm sorry.
If there is one school, and based on how the season can end for K-State, if K-State makes the Big 12 championship game, they're probably in the Sugar Bowl. If Chris Kleiman, and I get that this is a little bit late, but Chris Kleiman being in the Sugar Bowl by virtue, I think that's going to open up some SEC eyes maybe. And Auburn isn't a terrible landing spot, especially if you're going to pick one SEC school that has an opening and is a decent fit when you compare it to K-State. It might be Auburn.
Are you secretly Mike Vernon?
Is that the Scoopmeister? Mm-hmm. No, I'm not a Scoopmeister. I'm just spouting stuff. I'm spouting stuff with zero claims to be in the know of anything. This is all speculation on my part.
It's imminent.
No one is imminently telling me things that are imminent.
That was, by the way, that's my favorite rapper of all time. Imminent.
I don't have somebody in the athletic department at any place leaking me stuff that they're trying to figure out who the leak is. So, yeah.
I'm just going to answer this question and say no.
No. But can we just, is there a Sugar Bowl question in here?
There's not.
You brought this up, and that someone might be going, "What? Sugar Bowl?" Okay, here's how it lays out for Kansas State.
Well, there is a question about the postseason.
Okay,
is there?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God, Zach! I'm the one who's supposed to be dumb and out of it.
It is a yes.
Get in your lane.
Next question,
which is efficiency and knowledge.
Calm,
mine is monkeyed stuff.
Calm down.
Okay, I'm sorry.
From calm Manhattan waters.
Like it. Perfect.
Should we be worried about any players electing to sit out the postseason?
No. Yeah.
If they're in the Cheez-It Bowl or lower,
right? If they
lose the next two games, maybe. But also, if you lose the next two games, you probably want payback on somebody to end your career.
So realistically, who are the guys that would, if that scenario happens, the candidates would be?
If you're Felix, if you're Deuce, if you're Cooper Beebe,
I don't see any of those guys.
And those guys are not.
If you're slightly injured, let's say Deuce Green re-aggravates his abs or ribs or whatever it was. I think it was. I heard it was ribs on the broadcast. By the way. They knew it was ribs and a foot. I'm like, oh, we didn't know that. If he aggravates that before the bowl game, yeah, maybe, because he wants to be healthy for testing. I would get that. I would get a senior, that has been fighting injury, wanting to get healthy, but I don't see it happening. I think these guys just want to play.
But if they're in the Alamo or the Sugar Bowl, I think there is zero chance anybody opts out. Absolutely zero. But back to the Sugar Bowl scenario. She wanted to talk. Do you want to talk
about the postseason question?
That was the postseason question.
That was it?
Exactly, Fitz. Exactly. That's where I was trying to go.
This podcast is out of control.
But
okay, so if Kansas State advances to the championship game against TCU, there's a couple scenarios there. K-State wins and K-State loses. If K-State wins that game, naturally they wouldn't be in the playoff. But as Big 12 champion, they would automatically go to the Sugar Bowl. If Kansas State loses to TCU and TCU is in the 14 playoff, then Kansas State would be the likely choice, not automatic, mind you, but likely choice to be in the Sugar Bowl. And that opponent appears to be pretty solidly LSU, although some predictions are Tennessee. Now, the curveball here is, what if TCU loses to Baylor or whatever their next game is, and then they beat K-State and they're not in the playoff? That might actually be bad for K-State. You kind of want, at this point, you want TCU unbeaten when they go to Arlington, because TCU might slide into the Sugar, and then K-State might just be out of the New Year's Six altogether.
Or here's this first scenario.
It's a tie and both teams play in the Sugar Bowl?
Better.
Well, okay, go.
You play Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. Because Tulane could win the AAC championship game against UCF, presumably. I think that's how the standings are right now.
Yeah.
Tulane could be the representative for the group of five. And if K-State wins the next couple of games, and if TCU does fall out of the playoff and takes that Sugar Bowl spot as the champion, K-State could still maybe sneak in. But I think that in the end, the Pac-12 will probably put multiple teams in for at-larges. But it was fun at least a couple weeks ago when I was looking at the standings for bowl projections, and I was like, maybe TCU's in the Sugar and K-State plays in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane.
If K-State wins on Saturday, what are they, like a 70% chance to make the Sugar Bowl? If K-State and TCU both win, because then TCU plays Iowa State at home.
Essentially what you're saying is there a 70% chance or greater of K-State beating KU, which I would say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you win out, you win the next two games, you're in the Sugar Bowl.
Yep. Well,
virtually guaranteed.
Unless TCU loses.
Right.
The TCU, they're not going to lose the last
because a one-loss TCU will not make the college football playoff.
I would say if they beat West Virginia, it's a 95% chance they're in the actually, I'll say 100% chance they're in the Sugar, the Alamo.
Okay.
If they win this weekend, I'll say 100%.
So, folks, get your plane ticket. To San Antonio.
We haven't bought ours yet.
Yeah, hold off on that.
Hang on.
This is interesting. So Tulane plays host to SMU on Thursday night. Good watching if you're not at the K-State basketball game. And Cincinnati, you'll see UCF has Navy, Cincinnati has at Temple. But that final week of the season, Friday night, Tulane at Cincinnati. And there's a three-way tie.
That's a play-in game for the championship.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because UCF has their rivalry game on Saturday with South Florida. South Florida stinks. So basically Central Florida's got to walk into that, and then that Tulane-Cincinnati game will decide who goes to Central Florida, probably. There we go. That's your update from the American.
Do they not play it on a neutral site?
Not anymore. Nope, actually, I don't think they ever actually did.
Yeah, they've always played on home.
I like that.
But if you're a lesser conference, and I don't mean that as an insult, but I mean, you're not going to play on a field where the fans are going to flock to it.
Yeah,
so just play it on the home field.
I think the MAC still plays theirs in Detroit, though.
That's Detroit. Never mind. Go ahead.
It's indoors.
We're switching topics now.
Detroit.
We're closing the door on football.
They'll probably pay for it. We need something.
Would you like anything else? Any final regards before we close the situation?
Help us.
The situation.
The Lions and Pistons and Red Wings, help us.
From Call Me T22, some of the bigger non-con basketball games this year are looking weaker already. Cal, Rhode Island, and Wichita State have all lost bye games. As John Rothstein would like to say, the epitome of brutality. I just added that in there. Do you view this as a benefit to Tang's crew in that they should be able to build confidence, or a detriment that they may not get tested enough to prep themselves for Big 12 play?
I don't think you can look at non-con opponents and base their results of who they've played and lost to and compare them to playing K-State.
Right.
I don't think it matters, the results. I think that K-State, in the end, had a really easy non-con, for better or worse, an easier non-con that I think they're already going to build confidence. I don't think it matters what the other teams have done.
Let's point out that Jerome Tang has said on the record that the only non-con game they scheduled was the Cal game, that everything else was inherited, so the schedule was set down in stone. And yeah, it does hurt that some of these non-conference teams aren't what they were when the schedule was made. When K-State scheduled this series with Wichita State, the Shockers were rolling, and now they've fallen apart. So that does kind of stink. My concern isn't either one of those. It's option 3 that they'll go like 7 and we got 18 games in the conference, 7-11, 8-10 in the conference, and the resume from the non-conference won't be good enough to get him in the NCAA tournament. I think that's a wash because I think Jerome Tang is a good storyline that the NCAA committee will react to. As opposed to just being some team, there's actually a pretty good story there on making the NCAA tournament, the whole Baylor thing. And yeah, it is what it is. You can't unwind it. And I hope people show up on Thursday for the 5:30 game against UMKC. If you don't know, it's another doubleheader, but the men are first. The women play number 4, Iowa. I think they're still number 4. And so that's the big game. So come down, watch that UMKC game, stick around for the women, and see if the women can put a scare into one of the nation's best programs. But Zach and I, again, as we keep the theme about this is all about Zach and I traveling to West Virginia, appreciate that because we won't be staying late at Bramlage covering a men's game. We will get out of there so we can get to Kansas City on Friday morning for a flight.
Did you know this is all about you guys?
It is. Everything's about us.
Okay. I'm going to say this because I think that the non-conference schedule sucks, to be honest.
Yeah, it does.
It's a Bruce Weber non-conference schedule, like Jerome Tang basically admitted in his first post-game press conference.
I don't think he minds it being this way, so they can build some momentum here. But
let's just go look through this. Kansas City, they play the Roos. The Roos lost to a Division II school who was picked to finish last in the MIAA. Now, granted, they turned around and only lost to LSU by 12, but I think that says more about LSU than it does the Roos. They will probably destroy the Roos and cover whatever the spread is going to be.
How many times can you say Roos?
It's a ruse to figure out.
You know what? You know why he says it that way? It makes him hoppy.
But Rhode Island, they should win that game. Rhode Island has had a rough non-conference, as Call Me T22 pointed out. But then you look at the rest of the bracket.
Yeah, Butler. They sunk, dudes.
Yeah. You look at the bracket for the Cayman Islands Classic. This might be the worst collection of basketball teams I think I've seen in a preseason tournament. K-State.
Here's a little trivia. Did you know there's no K in Cayman? Go ahead.
I did not know that. I don't understand where that reference is coming from. I'm going to move on.
It's a fact. There's no K in Cayman Islands.
I get it now. Okay. Rhode Island, they play Nevada or Tulane next. If they beat Rhode Island, both of those teams have struggled with low major conference schools. So you would think that K-State should be able to pull off 2 wins in this tournament, get to the championship, and most likely play LSU, who has to beat Illinois State and the winner of Akron or Western Kentucky. So
I'm going to predict that if Kansas State plays Tulane and doesn't score more than 17 points, they will lose that game also.
I would think that's a fair assessment. The bottom line is K-State has a very realistic chance to finish the non-conference without a loss because all the games that they play, they're probably going to be favored in.
Do you get a trophy for winning the Cayman Islands Classic or an actual island, like a little small one they're not using, and you get to have it for the year? That'd be kind of cool.
That would be very interesting, but I don't think.
Name it Jerome Yang Island.
Oh, you're getting ahead of this, Fitz.
There we go. Might as well go to the next question.
The next question comes from co-assistant head coach Jerome Yang.
That's all in his name now?
No, it's just Jerome
Yang. The profile pic, though, is
Jerome Yang.
Jerome Yang.
Yes. Whoever made that Twitter account, by the way, I hope it's you, Jerome Yang. I hope you're the one that made that Twitter account.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. Thank you, Rex Hudler. You just had a Rex Hudler moment right there.
It's amazing having a username that is forgettable, and then a moment like this happens, and you pounce on it.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunity struck.
K-State has started Noel, Johnson, Tomlin, Carter, and Gasson the last 2 games, but I get the feeling that is subject to change. What do you expect to start going forward, and how many players will be in the rotation?
Well, I mean, I think there's no doubt in my mind that of a couple of them. I mean, Johnson's going to start.
Why is the coach asking us this question?
No, shouldn't he know this?
You should know this.
Noel will start. I guess, and Tomlin will start. And I think Jerome Tang, the actual coach, will rotate who he thinks earning the time. I mean, I do think it can move around a little bit.
I think Desi Sills will eventually slide in there as the starter. And it's nothing against Cam Carter, but I just think when you get into Big 12 play, you got to have your veterans ready to go.
And you want 2 point guards out there.
And maybe this is something that we haven't been used to, but maybe he wants Desi Sills as that playmaker in the second group who can come off the bench. I mean, and that's also something to think about. He loves having depth. To answer the question, I think there'll be 10 players that play. I really believe that because otherwise they would have redshirted Dorian Finister, and they didn't. So he's going to play. They're going to use him. Maybe he'll only play 6 to 7, 6, 8, 9, 10 minutes a game, but he's going to play. So, I think that I would say Desi Sills would get the nod, and I think they're going to start Gasson. I
like him.
He does some good things. He really does, and I think they like him better than Ish Massoud right now, which I can't argue with. So I think all these guys are only going to get better. That's the scary thing. Bruce's individual players on his most recent teams did not get better throughout the season. You can already see the difference in these guys between Washburn and between now. They're going to get exponentially better as the year goes on.
And I think Bebe, the other big man, Day, whatever it is. Bebe. I think he'll start. He has the thickest accent, and he's so soft-spoken. I'm like, you're like the African Huggins. I can't understand you. I can't hear you. Mm-hmm. But, they've got good tools. They've got just amazing guys that they can plug in. Ish Massoud doesn't belong in the starting lineup. And I think that tells you that he hasn't progressed like you'd hope he would, but also that they brought in some guys that can flat out play hoops. It's fun.
And I want to say this about Baby because you brought him up. I have so much respect for him. After the very first game, nobody's talked to him. I think D. Scott might be the only person in the media who has had a chance to meet and talk to him. He comes up onto the post-game podium after the game when none of us have any idea what he sounds like. He does have a very thick accent, and honestly, his English is still a work in progress. Mm-hmm. He's from Nigeria, so it's not like he was born and raised in America. But you know what? The amount of guts that it has to take for someone who is not fluent in English to get up there in front of a bunch of people he's never met before, has no idea about any of this. Fitzy played at Hofstra. They didn't have to do Hofstra, whatever it is, hopscotch, whatever. He played a hopscotch. Yeah. I mean, it was so cool for me to see him up there.
It was.
I mean, it just takes a lot of guts, and it's understandable why they want and got him, because he could have very easily said, I don't feel comfortable, but he took the challenge head on, just like he took the challenge head on of coming to K-State and starting basically a new program. So, I mean, I love the fact that Bebe is willing to do that, and I think he's going to have an impact this year. But again, it just goes to show the kind of culture that this coaching staff is trying to build, because they want guys like that. They want guys that aren't afraid of a challenge.
And we didn't even mention Tyke Green, who is wanted for murdering a basketball rim at Bramlage Coliseum last week. So
it just tells you how deep they are.
Yep. It's impressive. It's a fun team. You need to get to Bramlage and get it done.
The last question of the podcast. Speaking of fun, the last question of the podcast comes from Power Cat Ryan. This men's basketball team is the most fun Wildcat team to watch since fill in the blank.
Since Michael Beasley was here. That was a fun team because Mike could do so much.
Wrong.
Who? What?
2010. Jacob Poland, the Elite 8 year.
Yeah, I don't know. That team was fun, but depending on how you word it, that team was fun. They had some downs and they had some issues, but that team was good. But
this team will produce more highlight reel plays than that 2010 team.
And I don't want this to sound like a shot at Bruce Weber teams, but this team is more fun than either of the conference champions because I think they have a higher gear, I'm not saying they're going to compete for a conference championship. I think they just have a higher gear, a higher ceiling than those teams did. But I also think they have a deeper floor that they could fall down and, lose some games. We saw it against Cal. Well, actually, we didn't see it, Zach. We did not see them fall apart because we didn't find the game for the second half.
Our stream got shut down.
We broke the law. That's what we're trying to say. We feel bad about it. We watched the first half. It was enjoyable. It was a very, very good
stream.
Yeah. Whoever that pirate is. Good job.
Somebody sunk his ship.
Yeah, and then he got sunk at halftime.
How come the 16-year-old couldn't get into the pirate movie?
Oh, why?
It's rated R.
There we go. We got to leave on that, but that was still good. Thanks for trying to bring in a dad joke that wasn't delivered by me. Get into the fridge. It's perfect if you're a dad or you want to be a dad. I don't know. That was a weird ad.
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Power Cat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
Get in on the action with the world's largest sports book, right at your fingertips. Circa Sports Iowa is where the pros play. Enjoy the highest limits, lowest takeouts, competitive betting menus, and the best customer service. Now you can download, fund, and bet like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com for details.